Welcome to Still Evolving, where we explore the truth behind lasting performance and resilience. Rather than relying on perfection or superhuman ability, our conversation will highlight how real strength emerges through simple, intentional habits grounded in self-compassion, adaptability, and the ability to grow through life's inevitable setbacks. Today's guest is Manfred Abraham. Manfred is a consulting leader and former CEO with more than 20 years' experience building, scaling, and transforming advisory businesses through periods of significant market change. He is the founder of Brandcap and previously served as CEO of Yonder Consulting, where he led the firm through post-merger integration, strategic repositioning, and cultural evolution. Today, Manfred is senior partner at Profit, a global growth and transformation consultancy, and a member of the firm's AI Center of Excellence, where he helps shape how consulting organizations and their clients adapt to a rapidly evolving AI-powered future. Please welcome Manfred to Still Evolving. Manfred, welcome to Still Evolving. Grateful to have you on the show today and very much looking forward to this conversation.
Thanks. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, why don't we start off giving our audience a bit on your background? So share a little bit on your journey, where you come from and what you're doing now.
I've always been in consulting. It's now nearly 30 years that I've worked in the consulting industry. My parents still don't know 100% what I do because it's quite hard to explain to them. But I started in brand consulting with agencies that were well known then. They've all been bought up by WPP over time and then moved into one business. Quite funny when, the first couple of businesses you worked in are now one unit. Under a different brand. I was Lambinan, the partners. I think they're now called Design Bridge and Partners or something like that. But that's how the industry has evolved.
Yeah.
And then I went to a company called Wolf Woolens, then to Interbrand, where I headed up consulting in London, then started my own business called Brandcap, which I merged into another business called Yonder Consulting, very much in the business consulting space around growth, but using the philosophy of brand as a platform to help organizations succeed. And then I joined Puffhead in July last year as a senior partner. Well, it's been a journey. I had a break in between. We can talk about at some point, as I was on gardening leave, which was an interesting experience for someone who had never had more than 10 days off until that point and loves work. I like being in my job 100%. So there's interesting learnings in that period as well.
Absolutely. I can appreciate then, whether it was early on in your career or even later as an entrepreneur, starting your own consulting firm, and through that process of the exit and now joining as senior partner, you have, I am assuming, but perhaps been faced with a number of challenges, kind of those life punches along the way. When that happened, Manfred, what did you take away from that informs you now how you want to show up for you, your team, in present day challenges or adversity?
I think there's so much is written about leadership, on values, your vision, following where you want to go, communicate that vision to your team. It doesn't really matter on what level you're at. Having a fundamental belief that you have for a business and how you fit in a business or how you want to lead a business is really important. I found out over time that listening to people in the business is almost as important as having the vision to lead the business.
Yes.
And I found out because I wasn't listening carefully enough. Obviously, I work a lot with clients around setting strategies for their organization. So that is an easy part of my job because I do it every day.
Yes.
What was a more difficult part of the job for me was you have your vision, you've communicated it, but how are you checking that people within the organization are getting that vision? They understand the vision the way you understand it, because it seems like it lands, but
Right.
you really don't know if it's landed until you've spoken to people or found a way of getting them to communicate to you in some shape or form, however that channel of communication might be. Yeah, that's definitely a challenge just simply because of the person I am. And I think every leader has probably their own challenges in relationship to their personality and the
Yes.
things they find easy and difficult.
Absolutely. It somewhat reminds me, honestly, of my parenting role. It's kind of like, but I said it, I said it once, you didn't hear it, you're not on board, we're not together here. And really, when it comes to communication, I think you highlight the critical element of that feedback loop, right? It's truly multi-component, right? There's the sender. So you as the visionary leader sharing where you want this group, this team to go and what you want to deliver. Certainly then having the feedback that that information has been received and received in the same way. Like, hey, are you sure? Like we've got each other here. We're on the same page. And then being able to constantly boost that communication along the way. Because life is noisy. I mean, there's so much around us personally, professionally, and how you can reinforce that message consistently is so.
That's also as a leader, you will get a lot of information from people that are in your orbit of information. The CEO, your C-suite, maybe the
Yeah,
next level down, and that is your normal channels of communication. Those are the people that you will spend the most time with. But each of them will have, I'm going to call it agenda, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but they
sure.
have their own perceptions in relationship to the direction of travel that you've got. And so they will filter information to you through that lens. As a senior leader, you never really get a unfiltered version of what people are hearing or saying.
Right.
And that's quite important to know.
Yeah.
Figuring out ways of getting to this data, if I can call
Yes.
it that. But in the end, it is data
Right.
to help your decision making, to help your communication, the things you need to focus on to drive the organization in a certain direction. I think it's underestimated in most
Absolutely.
businesses.
It's a lot more challenging. I think it's easy for us to sit here and have this conversation about share your vision. Hey, check in with your people. Hey, reinforce it over time. But I think you're illustrating like this is a very dynamic, fluid context, right? And so, to your point that we're all human, there are people in there who, with their own biases, naturally, perhaps their own individual
Yes.
goals, right? Which we don't mind, right? Like we want people who are driven and looking for kind of that next evolution. So how you can kind of tease through that. What helped you do that, Manfred? I'm thinking about specifically your role growing your own firm as that leader, or perhaps maybe in your leadership now. What helps you sift through to try to get to, as best you can, a complete data set, which we know there's not many decisions in life. We have a complete data set, but what helps you do that?
Let me take a slight tangent and then come to your question.
Yeah.
I work a lot with boards. I work a lot with executive teams. And the
Hmm.
only data points we seem to be getting our hands on as leaders is financial data. That generally is the data point that is the most real.
Right.
The rest is often filtered. Like you do a staff survey, let's go as one channel. You ask the
Uh-huh.
engagement levels on staff surveys can often be quite low. So you get maybe 60%. If you're pushing for it and you've got an engaged audience, you might get to
Uh-huh.
80% or higher. But then how much are people really engaging with the content? How quickly do they go through it? How precise is the answering of the questions? Do they give you any verbatim feedback so you can really work on something? That will be another data point. How often do you do that? Do you do it once a year? Do you do it quarterly?
Yeah.
And how many of the business decisions are influenced by your numbers versus what people on the ground are experiencing?
Uh-huh.
And we will tell you how important the people are in a business, but often we don't have the data to support us to
Right.
know how well they actually are. But that's in general, I find that is always an interesting challenge. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what size of business, unless you're a micro business. As soon as you go over 10 people, I think you already got some of those dynamics going
Yeah.
on,
Yeah. Trying
more
to
than you can
trying to
manage.
find it. Absolutely.
Just then, personally, I think I learned over the last 30 years that you got to talk to people or interact with people, as in open communication on all levels across the business. And you need to create a level of trust with more junior people that you're there to openly listen. And
Hmm.
that's a challenge for anyone in this type of role, because people think you've got some kind of input over their career. So they will want to be careful. But I think you
Hmm.
can build a level of trust with people that is genuine and helps you get another flavoring on top of your staff surveys or anything else that you might do.
Absolutely. How you can influence as a leader those climates that would hopefully not only permit, but really encourage that sharing from like you said, early career professionals all the way up to your most seasoned executive teams. I'm reminded I had the privilege of working in athletics. Greg Byrne is an athletics director and currently at University of Alabama, but I worked with him at both Mississippi State and then later at University of Arizona. And I really appreciated how he got out of the office. Like, literally, he would walk around, our offices were in this stadium, essentially this indoor stadium building. And you would see Greg sometimes just walking around. And I think on the surface, I think it's easy to sit back and say, why is he just walking around? And it was very intentional. It was really to create that welcoming climate. He knew people's names. He knew what was going on in their lives, and really intentional. If you're going to talk about taking care of our people, how can you do that if you don't even know who they are? Right. So
Yeah, I
I
agree.
really appreciated some of those efforts. And I think now within the world, especially now enterprise companies, global companies, remote work, how intentional those efforts have to be, because we don't have just, hey, we happen to see you in the elevator on the way up as much. I mean, certainly many teams have returned to the office, but global teams, that was always the challenge,
Yeah.
right? So when you only see somebody once or twice a year, how can you create with very intentional efforts opportunities to connect and get to know people, and then also empower your executive team so that that way of interacting, way of being kind of really trickles throughout the
Filter through
organization.
the
Yeah,
organization. Yeah, and especially, and I'm gonna focus a little bit on the consulting world because it's
it's
my
what you
home
know.
turf. But without a question that our industry is on the top of industries that is gonna be disrupted
Mhm.
by what AI is bringing. Automatically, that's gonna create a lot of fear within the organization, even if there isn't any fear in an organization normally, because people know you have to transform and change. And most of our clients always are in the process of change. That is why they work with us. So they are on this transformation. So we are used to seeing this on the client side. It's interesting when it's happening to you as an organization that you have to transform and change. And
Yes.
the level of this is a challenge I hadn't seen before as much because I hadn't worked in an industry being disrupted.
Mhm.
And I think the reassurance you have to give to people, the picture you got to paint around the future, that whilst you don't know exactly what that future is going to look like,
Right.
identifying positive pathways into this new world
Yes.
is incredibly important to make sure that people are feeling supported and comfortable and ready to do their day job, but also keep an open mind of how they can do their day job maybe in a new way. Because you're
Yes.
basically asking them to do and learn as they go along in a very fast changing
Yes.
society.
I mean, if you think about when COVID hit, we were all disrupted, right? And we all had these reactions, very normal. We're all human, right? It is a normal human stress response that you're seeing. And it it threw people for a loop, right? Like all of a sudden, wait a minute, I'm homeschooling and I'm zooming and what is going on, right?
And also
And
the personal connections that people had in the offices.
yes.
They used to have the UK is a good example because it hasn't returned to work quite as much as some of the other, to working in the offices as some of the other countries.
Mhm.
And the people in the UK used to spend more time in the offices than in other countries. Quite a big shift
Right.
in attitude to what it means to
Yes.
be in an office. Who would have thought? COVID brought this on, and before it was always like something we talked about. In the future some of us might work from home. Really, a disruption like that brings big change.
Absolutely. So when you see this disruption, or perhaps even now, what guidance, Manfred, would you offer to other leaders, especially particularly around the AI disruption? So what do you see from leadership? You mentioned now being the disrupted industry, but also you've certainly helped other leaders in other industries. What have you seen that really helps as they are guiding and leading their people to help mitigate the fear response, to help perhaps settle, stabilize, even though, yes, we don't know all that's in store, right? We don't know if some of this is an overpromise of what could be. We don't know if it's a tool that's gonna land, it just becomes a thing like an enhanced Google product, right? We don't know if all of a sudden, like, there's gonna be robots walking on our streets. We don't know. What have you seen from leadership that has been helpful specifically in leading people around the AI disruption?
First, I think looking to step into a challenge, not hope the challenge doesn't come, is the first step in it.
Yes.
Look around you, look what's happening. look at your marketplace. Can you see smaller players maybe taking advantage of what new technology offers? I won't make this about AI. Let's talk about new technologies and new
Hmm.
development and just say, can you see others are gaining advantage because of this? Might that impact your business model?
Hmm.
Or could it impact your business model in a positive way? Might it
Hmm.
impact it in a negative way? Could it impact it in a positive way? Look for the opportunity.
Hmm.
Don't give in to the fear. Look for the
Right.
opportunity.
Right.
Create vision, a space that you think you could occupy, and then look in your business on how far away am I from this vision that I want to get to? Is this possible? Can I actually shift, transform my business into this new
Yeah.
thing I've thought up? If not, can I adjust it? Because
Yes.
I know my business can stretch to a certain extent, but it can't stretch as far. But there's a clear vision setting and a roadmap of how I'm going to get to this place that will be advantageous and a space to win.
Yeah.
I then need to work back and figure out the timing because the timing of this is so essential. You can go too early and it's not a
Yes.
business. You can go too late and others take your market
Hmm.
share and you
Hmm.
won't be able to catch up.
Right.
Put the tools in place that help you see when is the right time.
Hmm.
There can
Hmm.
be, especially actually AI is offering a lot of new tools in reading the market much more real time than we could. So
Hmm.
apply as many tools as you can to see if the picture is changing in a direction that you recognize as the picture you said, and then move at speed.
Yeah.
Don't hesitate and bring the people with you by telling them that this is the journey you're going on. You've got to be communicating the direction, but also the impact you think it's going to have in a positive way. You, I think, as a leader,
Right.
you haven't got the chance to be negative around this, even though you might be fearful, but that is
Right.
not something you can show.
You know, Manfred, right out of the gate, you talk about kind of reflecting on this experience. And then as humans, we automatically, with the way our minds work, we interpret what that experience might be. And I love your emphasis on this is a challenge. And when we talk about human performance, what we know is if you take a challenge mindset in interpreting whatever the situation is before you, you're more likely neurophysiologically to respond with readiness, right? Like your adrenaline shoots up, your testosterone stays up, your cortisol stays low, that stress hormone. You're able
Yeah.
to remain psychologically flexible and problem solve and just iterate kind of new ideas. And yet, if right out of the gate you look at this experience before you as a threat, the opposite happens neurophysiologically. Your cortisol shoots up, your stress hormone shoots up, your testosterone and adrenaline drop, and actually you become less psychologically flexible. So you're going to be really narrowed in because why? If your mind is here to help us survive, we want to identify those threats and narrow in on it. And we're really less able to see those opportunities that you mentioned. So I really appreciate just right out of the gate you talking about this as a challenge. And I've
I'm
worked.
Austrian. I'm Austrian. I
Uh,
grew up on skis. Skiing is to me always the best metaphor of how to deal with a challenge because in skiing, fear makes you lean backward. You lose all control. If you lean forward, you put your weight forward, you are in control of your skis. Leaning into it is always the way of feeling in control and all the things that you said. And then it's exhilarating and exciting. If you lean back, all the wrong things happen.
right.
All the wrong things happen.
Absolutely. Manfred, thank you. I feel like that metaphor is a perfect place to wrap. But before we do, I always ask and give opportunity for our guests to share back maybe that one tool, tip, strategy, something that you use on a daily or weekly basis that's helped you stay grounded. Because indeed, this journey is not for the weak at heart. It can be a grind. There's ups, there's downs. I very much appreciate your skiing metaphor and how can we lean in to the challenges before us. But nonetheless, it takes a lot of fuel to do so. So what has helped you stay in this game? Maybe something that helps you each day or on the weekly basis.
I think it's really important to make everyone in the business feel that they can honestly feedback on your performance. And I don't mean as in an official way, right? I mean, create a level of trust. Tell people you are happy to grow. You want to have all feedback. Don't worry about what happens. When people open up and they tell you things that they're observing that you could improve on, that keeps me going on a daily basis. I want to get better every day. And you can only get better if people can give you feedback to learn from. I found that has always worked and I've not always been as good at it as I would like to be, is often you're very busy, you forget that this is something that's important to you personally for development. But I can highly recommend it. It's amazing what people see that you can't see.
Absolutely. Never forget that power of that curiosity, right? If we can
Yeah.
keep asking and keep creating those climates of openness, how transformational that can be. Manfred, wonderful to have you. Really appreciate you in this conversation. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Really enjoyed it. Thanks, Amy.